when I first heard the demo for Are You Tired, I already knew I wanted to go for something that was very live feeling, more like jazz and funk. And yeah, I think we managed to achieve that pretty well at the end. I think the more difficult part for me, in terms of producing the song, was getting the drums and the bass to sound as live as possible. The idea for the song was to make it sound like Katie mentioned, that you're actually sitting, watching the song being performed as if it is happening live. And because I programmed the drums and the bass, I had to make them sound as live as possible, as if they are being performed. I think that was most probably the most challenging part of the song. In terms of the piano, we had a pianist do that, and we also had a brass player come in and do some trumpet takes for us, multiple trumpet takes for layering, and also just having some other ideas come in. So when I first started with the song, I had the demo track playing, and I immediately just started playing some drums, or programming in some drums over that demo, and we ended up with some pretty cool sounding drums. The idea I had was, if I want to make the sound as live as possible, we need to have different drum parts for each section, so that it doesn't sound like it's being looped and repeated the whole time. So each section you'll hear has a different drum part. And then I just added some other layers, like here you can see there's like a clap snare, and we got some other claps going on. And I also added this really cool like shaker in during the choruses, just to add a bit more rhythm. And yeah, I think I got it to sound as jazzy and as live as possible. And then in terms of the bass, again, we went through a lot of back and forth, a lot of trying out different things, and I think what we ended up with was a combination of the slower version of the bass I did and the more faster paced version of the bass I did. So there's a bit of like a combination that we ended up with. And then Candace was saying that she really wants to have like bass slides in the song, so I just found a sample on Splice of just a simple bass slide that I then just brought in to like transition between the different sections of the song. And I think another great note that I received from Candace was to add a lot more cymbals into the drums. So you'll hear I added a lot of rides in terms of the chorus, and a lot more like drum fills and crashes, and really making it sound as live as possible. So let's just play this beginning section, and you'll hear how I transition the drums to play differently, and like the types of rides and cymbals that I bring in, and the drum fills, etc. So I'm just going to solo this, and we're just going to listen. Awesome. So as you can hear, a lot of variation to the drums. I would say my main inspiration, especially for the chorus, was new jazz, because in new jazz they have that like very fast-paced snare, and a lot of snare hits in new jazz, and I think I drew my inspiration from that. Yeah, and then as you could hear, this when the shaker also comes in, and it just adds a nice little touch of rhythm to the drums. Awesome. And then yeah, this is the bass that we ended up with. Again, we went through quite a few concepts with the bass. I think the main part of the bass that we really enjoyed was this little rhythm that I had going on here. So I actually had that part repeating quite a lot throughout the whole song, and Candace said she only wanted to come in certain moments to make it more unique. So I kept, the idea then was to just keep the bass very simple in the verses, and then when the chorus comes in, to bring that unique bass line in that I did originally. In terms of the brass, I actually did program in the brass as well at first. So what I did was I pulled a sample from Splice, which had that like long sustained note, and it actually worked so well with the vocal in the chorus that also sustains, and it kind of created this layer, and I really wanted to keep that in. So I literally just cut that part out of that sample, put it in, and then I played the rest of the brass in with MIDI, as you can see. But yeah, the MIDI brass was not working. It didn't sound real. It sounded very synthetic, very robotic, and we wanted this song to sound like a live performance. So after a couple months, we decided, okay, let's actually get someone to play the brass live for us. And I think also one of the biggest notes and ideas for the song was to keep, or to use as little quantization as possible. So we wanted things to be off the grid. We wanted that syncopation, that, you know, that live human feel to the song. And the funny thing about the song is we actually didn't have the solo in. We were kind of confused as to what to do with the song in terms of the structure, because we know it needed something more, but we weren't quite sure like what we should do. So we did actually try to do like a few like bridges and different types of solos, and like Katie mentioned, playing around with like having solos between different instruments, and then the pianist just improvised the solo, and it just worked amazingly, and I think she did a fantastic job with that. And I think one of the inspirations as well with having like multiple solos and having a solo for the song was a song from Emma Nissen. If you go search her up on Spotify, YouTube, if you search Emma Nissen, the song's name is Love Like You, and I drew a lot of inspiration from that song while I was producing the song. And the cool thing that we decided to do here at the end with the drums is, instead of having the drums be its own separate solo, let's rather just add a new rhythm to the drums at the end of the piano solo. So it kind of feels like a new solo, it feels like a new section, but it's also transitioning into the next section of the song. So that's this little moment over here. So I'm just going to play the entire solo for you, and then you'll hear what I mean here at the end with the drums as well. is what we eventually came up with. I think the inspiration for these drums actually came from Candice, because we were working with an idea of another song of using reggae drums, and I think that was just like in the back of my mind, and I was like, you know what, I actually think it'll be pretty cool to have like a reggae type of feel to this drum section. So I found these samples on Splice actually, which fitted really nicely with the song, and I feel like it has that type of like reggae type of vibe with the percussive elements and stuff in the samples. And then we had the brass player play those long sustain notes, as well as the other additional notes that I played in, and this is what the brass then sounds like all together. So as you can hear, very syncopated. It's not completely on time, which is exactly what we're going for. And then the brass player was nice enough to kind of, at the end of his recording, he just played like a few little like fun moments and like improvised some parts for us, which I then just cut and shifted them to see where in the song they would kind of fit. And I thought it was pretty cool to add this part over here, like just before the drums come in, to add a transition into that, the more percussive drums. And then again here at the end, just having like this beautiful improvised part that he did for us to finish off the song. And I think that is then about all that the song had. This is then obviously the final production of the song, once we kind of had a vision and we knew more or less what the song was going to sound like. But the song went through a lot of trial and error, a lot of testing, a lot of editing and back and forth. But this is then the final production of Are You Tired? I hope you guys enjoyed that, and I'll see you in the next one.